Good afternoon, YouTube and YTPC. How you all doing? Well, we got a very cold and grey and rainy day today. So on such days you wonder, what shall I do? But stay indoors, rather than be out there. And I opened a drawer in my little library room and looked at my ramshackle coin collection, which is really just a drawer where I've thrown a lot of these coins and notes that I've collected over the years. A very minor collection, but it's totally disorganized. But I thought I might share them with you, just to amuse you for a short video. So, for good or for bad, here it is. Well, hello YouTube. It's a windy, rainy day today, so thought I'd show you some of my coin collections and my old note collections. It's a bit of a ramshackle kind of collection. There's no order, and I don't have a huge amount of coins and notes, but just for fun I thought I'd show them to you. I'll do the notes first. You may remember when the Queen looked like Mary Poppins, that's back in the 60s, and I just kept this pound note with me forever, and that's sort of one thing that started me collecting. In the 1940s, I think this is about 48 from the serial number, the pound notes look like this. By the way, if you're a time traveller, it's always good to collect coins and notes, because just for a day or so you need a bit of currency. And it's just interesting how they've changed. So that's the English notes. Now I've got a few American notes. This is weird. I went to Monticello, which was the home of Thomas Jefferson, and they still issues these $2 notes. These are not old, but it's kind of 1976 series they're called. But a $2 note, if you gave that into a shop, they might look twice at it, but apparently it's legal tender. And of course I've got two $2 notes. Got a few old notes from, this is 1935, and you see the blue seal there, and often it says in silver payable, so this is a silver certificate. You could, in theory, get a silver dollar in exchange for it, but I don't know if they do that anymore. And it's interesting how, especially the American money has, at least to that point in time, not changed that much. Here's another one. This is an old Jefferson $2 note from 1953. And it's interesting, the ink, a little bit of colour is still a greenback, of course, So that is the short collection of notes from America, and of course, living in Switzerland, I've wanted to collect some oh yes, that's a 10 franc note. When I first came to Switzerland in 1987, they were still issuing these, and it reminded me of the old English 10 bob note, which I don't have one of, but I kept that for sort of that reason. And this is a 5 franc note. Now today, Switzerland, of course, use coins like this for 5 francs. This is a silver one from 1966. They actually still did. They kept doing silver coins to 1968 in Switzerland, but ever less silver in them. And this one is from 1930. So that's for the next trip in the past in Switzerland. And here I've got a couple of notes. Trying to get a few more Swiss notes here. This is 1977, was the 10 franc note. You know, you see the difference, how that's modernized versus this very traditional one with a figure of history importance. Switzerland, very formal and old style Germanic look to it, or Swiss look to it. And here's a 20 franc note. And that is from 1971. Very nice with the flowers, and I guess that's not Edelweiss, but that's some sort of thistle flower for Switzerland. So that's the Swiss notes, and let's move on to coins. Now I won't show all the coins because I've got quite a ramshackle one, but since we were on Switzerland, here's an interesting one. This is a kind of token, and this was used to pay for your schooling. And this was a school token from 1814. And only rich people could afford to send their children to school in those days, and this is what you paid with. Fascinating. I love the history. This is an 1881 1 franc coin from Switzerland with Helvetica. This one is interesting because she's sitting here with the Swiss shield and the spear. It's a bit like Britannica, but the Swiss version. But mostly she's standing. If I now look at, let's get some other ones over here. Just to compare, you see that's a Swiss franc where she's standing. And again, these are silver, but see 1900, and these are 5 franc coins, 1933. At that time, they had a lot of silver in them. But if you pick them up in sort of moderate or slightly poor condition like this one, they're not that expensive. They cost like 2 francs for a 1 franc silver coin. 1920, 1908, and this is the half franc coin, 1898. Now, all of these coins look very similar even to today. If you look at a modern Swiss franc, 1 franc or half franc or 5 franc, they look very, very similar to these coins. And that's interesting that they have not changed them too much. I don't know what this one has snuck in there. That's a Russian coin. I don't know why I put that in there. They sneak in. But here, for example, this shiny one my wife picked up in her change, and it was 1965, and it's silver and very, very good condition. Somehow that slipped into the change. It's always worth looking in your hand, if anything is light and makes a nice ching when it touches the other coins, it might be silver. And as I said, up to 1968 they were still putting silver in them. This is a 1944. I have a time trip planned to 1944, and this will be handy for that. Either has to be coins or notes that are earlier from that date, but not too old, because then people might suspect you. And you see Helvetica again is standing here, and there's all kinds of variants in it where she's looking left or right and all of that, and the experts who know a lot about it, of course that's what they really collect. Mine is a sort of sporadic kind of collection. I started actually before 1848. The Swiss Confederation had the counties were all separate. They were not part of the same country, and they had things called batzes, which were these little coins. This particular one, this was 1883, so this is a Swiss 2 Rappen coin that is after the Federation agglomerated. But let's take a look. They're very, very dark because the bronze has got very... This is 10 Batzen from 1811. So this is definitely one from... And I have to look really hard to see what canton it is. Freiburg, is it? Yes, that is Canton Freiburg. That is their own money for that county at that time. It's amazing. And I got just a few exemplary pieces to show. This is the oldest one, 1721, and that is the Canton of Valais, or the Valais, in southern Switzerland, where I often go with my wife for little breaks. And that little place, chalet apartment we stay, is in that canton. And the flag still looks very similar today with the 13 stars. And that's a silver coin from 1721. It's one of my oldest coins. Not that great condition, which meant I could afford it at 25 francs, but it's a piece of history, isn't it? You think all the hands that this coin has gone through, and you know, the lives it must have touched, and you know, if it could tell stories, it would be wonderful, wouldn't it? So got another Butts here. This one is 1826, and that's in the county that I live now today, Solothurn. All those years ago, quite fascinating. And they don't cost a fortune. If you think how old they are and how miraculously they've survived, for 15 francs to get a reasonably good condition, at least you can see, you know, you can see a reasonable amount of detail there. It's nice to make a collection for not really costing you a fortune. So let's go over to some old British... oh no, wait. Here's one I wanted to show you. This is the Morgan dollar, 1883. I was in Boston and met a chap, antique dealer. It was one of those outside fairs where everybody had a stand, and that's not true. It was in New York, that's right, not Boston. And I got one of these Morgan dollars, which I think is just very, very attractive, from 1883, I think it is. 1883, yeah. Very nice. So, British old coins, you know, for sentimental reasons. 1858, 100 years before I was born. And this is like perfect condition. If I would go back, you'd almost think this has just been minted, you know. 1 shilling, and of course 1858 Victoria was still relatively young, you know. So that's that one. 100 years later, in 1958, this is a half crown. Now, when I was a kid, a half crown, you were sort of rich if you had a half crown. You know, you could buy a ton of sweets with it, and you know, you thought, my God, you know, a full half crown. So it was a bit more than 2 shillings, 2.5 shillings, I think. And you know, you could really do something with it. Here's an this is a florin, and a florin was 2 shillings. So this is so-called double florin. Maybe it's 4 shillings. I don't know. 1889. Victoria again. She was a bit older then. But beautiful coin. Beautiful coin. I love it. The weight of it. And what else have we got? Oh, we've got a ton, of course, like everybody. I've got all these old coppers from George V and George VI, and you know, you get these at jumble sales, and they cost almost nothing. You know, so there's George VI, and there's Elizabeth. This is a farthing, right? So you had a halfpenny, a halfpenny we used to call it, which was a halfpenny, and half of a halfpenny was a farthing. And it had this little wren, the smallest bird in the UK, didn't it? 1946. And I remember, like, my mother would say, in her day, you could get a few sweets for just a farthing, you know? And that's a quarter of a penny. So, I'm not sure. Yes, that's a Victoria one. When she was really getting on, I think this is probably about 1900. 12 years before the Titanic went down, this was in circulation. What have we got here? This is the 25th anniversary of Philip and Elizabeth. So that says it here, 1947 to 1972, so that's 25 years. One of the memorial coins, which would have been a crown, of course, in value, but you just keep them, like this Churchill one, you know, which are fairly easy to find and fairly common. 1965, when he died, there was a memorial coin for Churchill, and I kept that since I was a boy. And let's go back a further part of time to George the Fourth, I think it is. Let's look at the date, 1824. So that's 9 years after Waterloo. It was George the Fourth. This is reasonably good condition one. And George the Fourth had sometimes pretty exotic hairdos. Let me show you another one of George the Fourth. And that's the same bloke. And this is George the Fourth with this. They called him Old Pineapple Head because he had these fronds on top of his head. There's 1 shilling from 1836. So So that was a bit later than this one. And his dad, the guy that lost the colonies, reading a really good book about George III, so a lot was misunderstood about him, but that's another topic. 1818, so that's 3 years after Waterloo, and right towards the end of his reign, really, there's George III, and that's a crown again. Very nice coin, showing that one. And this is an old one, but it's very hard to actually look at. This is George III as well. This is 1806. And these kind of coins are not that pricey if they're bad condition, so to say. You can pick them up for not so much, just to have one of that type in your collection, you know. What have we got here? This is actually just a token from the dungeon, the London Dungeon. It's a tourist attraction where they sort of show kinds of grim things from London British history as a dungeon, and it's for tourists, and it's still going. And my nieces and nephews, or great nieces and nephews, love to go there, and they give you these tokens in the tavern, so I couldn't resist to keep one for a memory, you know. And here's one from the Vatican. My wife and I went a few times. So I love Rome anyway. We're going every now and again to Rome, and we got this sort of little talisman coin to take blessings with you from the Pope, and I actually kept it a long time in my wallet when I was travelling as a protective talisman. So that's it. It's a bit of a ramshackle demo of bizarre coins, but just thought it might amuse you. Cheers. Well, I hope you found that amusing at least. It's, you know, I like to collect things, and I find actually coins quite interesting, because probably in 20 years some countries would have stopped actually printing and producing notes, and coins will all be electronic, and they'll become ever rarer over time. And I still think each coin has a little bit of history, doesn't it? Specific time that it represents, and all the hands it passed through. You know, I find it interesting to think what were times like when that coin or was minted, or when the note was printed, you know. Forgot to mention housekeeping. This is a Savinelli St. Nicholas Christmas pipe with the green stem. I love this marbled sort of acrylic green stem here with a lovely little collar, and just smoking some Carter Hall in it at the moment, you know, which is always a good smoke, isn't it, you know. Right, well, that's it. Just short and sweet today. Take care, everyone. Look after yourselves. Bye-bye.